What did Jungkook do that no one expected? And why did it leave Taehyung in tears while ARMY began uncovering details hidden in plain sight? If you think you know the story, think again. And before you read further, tell us what you believe really happened. Comment, like, and subscribe, because this is the moment the silence stopped making sense. Did anyone truly see it coming, or did the signs exist all along, waiting quietly beneath years of shared glances, unfinished sentences, and the fragile trust between two people the world thought it understood? The night everything changed did not arrive with an announcement, a scandal, or a public confession. It arrived with something far more unsettling. A gesture so subtle it almost disappeared, and yet so jarring it sent millions searching backward through memories, clips, interviews, and fragments of meaning, as if reality itself had shifted by a single, irreversible degree. ARMY had watched countless moments before. Moments of laughter, playful chaos, private whispers caught accidentally on camera, but this time felt different, as though the air itself had tightened. Jungkook's behavior, described by fans as uncharacteristically distant yet deliberate, unfolded in a space where expectations had long been stable. He did not say anything dramatic. He did not break formation. He did not create spectacle. Instead, he did something quieter, and therefore far more dangerous to the emotional equilibrium of those who believed they knew the language of his presence. He looked away. Not casually, not distractedly, but with the careful finality of someone choosing distance in full awareness of being seen. The moment lasted less than a second, and yet it landed with the weight of a chapter ending mid-sentence. Taehyung, positioned just close enough for the cameras to catch the peripheral exchange, did not react immediately. There was no visible shock, no confrontation, no interruption of choreography or conversation. But those who later replayed the footage frame by frame noticed something almost imperceptible. A tightening around his eyes, the kind that precedes tears long before tears exist. At first, ARMY did what ARMY always does: explain, contextualize, soothe. Perhaps he was tired. Perhaps he was focused. Perhaps nothing had happened at all. But reassurance began dissolving as more fragments surfaced, each one small enough to ignore alone, yet impossible to dismiss together. A pause where there had never been pauses. A missing glance where glances had always found each other instinctively. A silence that did not resemble rest, but restraint. The unsettling truth began to take shape not through a single revelation, but through accumulation. Fans who had archived years of interactions began noticing patterns that had shifted slowly, almost politely, as though both parties had been adjusting to something unspoken for longer than anyone realized. What seemed sudden might, in fact, have been gradual. What felt shocking might have been inevitable. And the possibility that this distance had roots deeper than one moment made the present ache sharper. Then came the second fracture. Hours after the initial incident circulated, another clip emerged, this one less ambiguous, yet more painful. Taehyung, usually expansive in expression, appeared withdrawn, answering lightly but with a softness that carried fatigue beneath it. He smiled, but not fully. He laughed, but not with the same unguarded warmth. And at one point, when attention shifted away from him and he believed no one watched, his face fell into an expression so nakedly wounded that viewers felt they were intruding on something private. His eyes shimmered. Not dramatically, not theatrically, but with the fragile brightness of someone holding back emotion out of necessity. That ARMY did not need confirmation to understand what they were seeing. The human language of hurt transcends translation. And yet the questions multiplied. What had changed, why now? And why did Jungkook seem to be the catalyst? Speculation surged, but beneath it ran a deeper current, grief. Not merely for the possibility of conflict, but for the shattering of an assumption long held. That some bonds, once forged in shared youth and relentless experience, remained immune to fracture. Fans had believed in continuity, in constancy, in a connection resilient enough to survive everything. The emerging narrative threatened that belief, and the loss of belief itself can feel like loss of relationship. As discussions intensified, ARMY began uncovering details previously overlooked, details that did not accuse but suggested tension long unacknowledged. There were moments when Jungkook's attention drifted elsewhere, while Taehyung spoke. Times when Taehyung initiated contact that Jungkook did not fully reciprocate. Instances of humor that did not land, of energy that did not align. None of these had seemed alarming before. Now in hindsight, they resembled cracks. The shock, however, did not come solely from Jungkook's perceived distance. It came from the emotional asymmetry fans believed they were witnessing. One person withdrawing, the other absorbing the impact. Taehyung's tears, whether fully shed or merely threatened, became the focal point. Because tears transform speculation into empathy, they collapse abstraction into feeling. And once empathy anchors a narrative, it spreads with unstoppable force. Why would Jungkook pull away? That question reverberated across platforms, conversations, late-night analyses. Some suggested personal evolution, growth that naturally alters relational dynamics. Others pointed to exhaustion, the cumulative pressure of years lived under scrutiny. A few wondered whether boundaries were being redefined, perhaps clumsily, perhaps painfully. No explanation satisfied fully, because explanations require access to inner worlds the public cannot enter. And yet ARMY kept searching. The search itself became an act of care. Fans revisited memories not to accuse but to understand, to protect meaning from collapse. They traced timelines, emotional arcs, subtle tonal shifts in interactions. They asked whether closeness had once been assumed rather than actively maintained, whether familiarity can dull attentiveness, whether two people can drift not from lack of affection, but from the silent demands of becoming individuals in separate directions. But the story refused to remain analytical. It returned always to that image. Taehyung's eyes bright with unshed tears, Jungkook turned slightly away, and the invisible space between them suddenly visible to millions. What made the moment devastating was not certainty but ambiguity. No confirmation of conflict existed. No statements. No confrontation. Only perception layered over years of intimacy witnessed indirectly. Ambiguity forces the mind to fill gaps, and the mind often fills them with fear. Fans imagined conversations that might have happened privately, words spoken or withheld, disappointments accumulated quietly. Each imagined scenario deepened the emotional resonance, because imagination personalizes distance. Then another detail surfaced, subtle but haunting. During a subsequent appearance, Jungkook reached toward Taehyung instinctively, perhaps to guide, perhaps to steady, but stopped halfway, hand hovering before retracting. It lasted less than a second. But hesitation between people once effortless with touch can feel louder than absence. ARMY replayed it endlessly, asking the same question. Why stop? Was it self-consciousness? Was it uncertainty? Was it an awareness of cameras, or of something else entirely? The gesture's incompletion became symbolic, a physical manifestation of connection interrupted. And when placed beside Taehyung's visible hurt, it formed a narrative arc fans could not ignore. Approach, pause, withdrawal. The emotional temperature rose further when a fan-captured angle showed Taehyung watching that aborted movement. Not staring, not confronting, just noticing. His expression did not accuse. It reflected something more vulnerable. Recognition. The recognition of change, perhaps, or of distance acknowledged silently by both. At this point, the discourse transcended gossip. It became collective mourning for perceived fracture in a bond that had once seemed foundational. Fans wrote essays about evolving friendship, about expectations placed on public relationships, about the difficulty of preserving intimacy under observation. Many admitted projecting their own experiences onto what they saw. Moments when someone they loved shifted away without explanation. The story resonated because it mirrored universal fear. The fear that closeness can fade while both people remain physically near. Yet amid grief, another perspective emerged, quieter but persistent. What if the shock lay not in Jungkook's behavior but in the audience's realization that even the closest partnerships change? What if Taehyung's tears, real or near, reflected not betrayal but transition? Growth often hurts most where attachment is strongest.